All right, my friends, thank you for joining me. In today's video, my aim is to give you some food for thought, or perhaps some fodder for conversation with maybe your coworkers, if you like them well enough, your family, your friends, and I really hope that you'll take the time to mill over the ponderables that are discussed in this video. You see, where I'm going with this is I want to talk about how we all have these pivotal moments in our life and in which things just seem to fall apart and it could devastate us. Now, I'm not talking about the day in, day out things that just aren't going our way. Let's not be dramatic. I'm talking about when we have these aspirations, these projects, these labors of love in which we engage ourselves, and it means a lot to us, and we've really applied ourselves and we've given it our all. And we thought we did everything right, and then all of a sudden, it just crumbles to pieces. It could devastate you. Perhaps it already has. And this will probably happen more than a handful of times throughout your life, depending on how long you live, obviously. But you can't let it take you down. You've got to adjust your thinking, and I hope that's where you find yourself by the end of this video. Let me tell you about Auguste Rodin. Rodin was a world-famous sculptor back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. If you've ever seen the statue called The Thinker, then you've seen his work. And you've probably seen it in many different places in many different ways, and you just didn't know it. But Rodin was born in 1840, and in 1864, while he was 24 years old, he was still unknown, well, relatively unknown. He had been working on his craft. Growing up, he really never saw himself as an aspiring artist or sculptor. It was just something he kind of took an interest in and started working on and developed it over time. But he began to realize he had a skill that he had cultivated and wanted to share it with the world. At 24 years old, not having very much money, being just flat broke, he had to do what he could. He had to do the best he could with what he had. He actually rented out a horse stall as a studio. A horse stall. No air conditioning, no heat. He just had to work around less than desirable elements. But he wanted to work on a bust, anything from here on up. He wanted to sculpt something to present to the Paris Salon in 1864. Now, the Paris Salon is a place where art is exhibited, and you become very well known as a result of it. And your artwork goes before critics before it's ever allowed to be seen there. And he had been rejected before. So he decided he was going to sculpt a bust, but he did not have a model, and he couldn't afford them. Models were expensive. They didn't make bad money. In fact, they made more money than he did at that point. But there was a man that swept the stalls, the dirty work. It was an older man, older gentleman, not very good looking, not pretty by most people's standards, and his name was Bibi. And Rodin thought to himself, well, I've got to do something. So he hired Bibi to be a model for him, which he was happy to do for, in exchange for drinks. And but Bibi, he just wasn't the first pick of probably most people. So he sat before him, and it took Rodin quite a while to work on this. He finished the bust, and this is just shortly before he was going to submit it to the Paris Salon. Well, overnight things went wrong. The temperatures dropped below freezing. He walked in the morning, looked at the bust of Bibi, and it was broken to pieces in the back of the head on down. It's made of plaster, before he would cast it into bronze. And I'm sure he probably felt devastated. But he looked it over, and he decided to himself, I think it looks better this way. And so he worked on it. He wasn't able to submit it there in 1864, but he did in 1865. It's known as the man with the broken nose. Now, the picture you're looking at is a picture I took at a Rodin exhibit, and it's not a bust, it's just the head. And when I took this picture, I had gone around to the back and I wondered why there was no back of the head. And this sculpture here was actually made in 1880. But Rodin looked at the work that was shattered, that was broken, that he'd worked so hard on. He just did everything he could. He thought he was doing everything right. I'm sure he took some pride in it because he was just doing the best he could with what he had, and it just still fell to pieces. But he looked at it and said, I think I like it better. But here's what he actually said, if you want to hear it in full. He said, that mask determined all my future work. It's the first modeled piece I ever did. Ever since, I've tried to see my works from all possible points of view and to draw them in every one of their aspects. That mask has been on my mind in everything I have done. You see how it changed things for him? One of the things that Rodin was well known for by critics was that he embraced imperfection. He believed that the human eye could not accept perfection as well as it could imperfection. And he capitalized on it. And as I walked through the Rodin exhibit myself, I realized, before I even knew much about him, that these were different. Some of the manifestations, the bodily features were oversized, and I could see he was making a point, but I didn't understand it. I do now, and I appreciate it. The whole world knows who he is. He became very well known. When the pieces fall apart in your life, well, not when the pieces fall apart, there's pieces because it fell apart, but when things fall apart in your life that you've worked so hard on, don't let it crush you. Don't let it devastate you. Ask yourself, is there a different way of looking at this? Perhaps it looks better. Now, this doesn't apply in every case, but it could be a turning point for you. It might be seen as a greater piece of work, a greater piece of art. It could change the way you do things. It could change the direction you move in from now on. I hope Rodin's giving you something to think about, because he certainly has me. Don't let it take you under. Don't let it stop you in your tracks and keep you from moving forward anymore. Don't let it crush your dreams. I say dreams, I really kind of hate that talk even. Don't let it stop your work. Keep on doing what you do. Don't let the broken pieces identify you. Guys, I hope that's meant something to you. If it has, hit the like button. Subscribe to hear more content like this. Share it with others. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. If you're wondering what I have in my beer today, well, I applied Live Bearded's Canyon Beard Oil. Smells great. Juniper, cypress, and fir needle scent. Oh, smells so good. And I applied their beard butter. Nice, very nice. If you want to know how you can acquire some of it for yourself, you can go to livebearded.com, use my code Kratos to save yourself some money. It applies to everything they have there. But in the meantime, let's not forget what this video is really all about. It's not always about picking up the pieces. Sometimes you can just let them lie where they are and see what new creation lies before or sits before you. Appreciate it. Capitalize on it. All right, guys. I hope that's meant something to you. If it has, leave a comment down below. I'd appreciate hearing from you, and I'll respond to you in as timely of a manner as possible. I'll see you in the next one. Be wise.